As energy costs keep climbing, put your energy bills in check. Call today and find out how affordable ABC Seamless products can be.
This is CNN.
Russian President Yeltsin says the rumors of his death are greatly exaggerated as he meets with the British Prime Minister before tomorrow's UN summit.
And a whopping membership increase in the CSCE as Europe welcomes its newest nations. And welcome to our viewers in the United States and around the world. This is World Day. I'm Reid Collins in Washington.
And I'm Bobbie Battista at CNN Center in Atlanta. Boris Yeltsin is in the West to look for international financial support and to push his nuclear disarmament ideas. Mr. Yeltsin met today with British Prime Minister John Major in London. Later, he goes on to the United States and his first official visit to the United Nations. CNN's Steve Hurst says the Russian leader has a big agenda for this crucial journey.
It's a coming-out party of sorts for Boris Yeltsin, and it's sponsored by British Prime Minister John Major. On his way to the UN and Washington, Yeltsin stopped in London to see the British leader, to talk about nuclear weapons cuts, and to renew the old London-Moscow friendship axis started by former Prime Minister Thatcher and previous Kremlin boss Mikhail Gorbachev. There have been a lot of questions about Yeltsin's health recently, and he sought to put them to rest upon his arrival in London.
Как говорил Марк Твен, слухи о моей смерти не подтверждаются или несколько преждевременны.
I follow the remark by Mark Twain, the famous American author, who said that the rumors of my death are slightly exaggerated.
Несколько преувеличены.
But so far, the British haven't shown any sign of joining the outbreak of nuclear weapons cuts that is sweeping Moscow and Washington. The Russian boss outlined the centerpiece of his initiatives to the people at home in a television address before he left. A nuclear strategy that ought to clear away complaints by those who were reluctant to aid Russia, with nuclear missiles still pointing at U.S. cities. The move was one of economic necessity, not only in terms of Russian military spending cuts, but also if Moscow hopes to receive still needed U.S. assistance. But Yeltsin's chief economic advisor said the new nuclear policy was not intended as a trade-off for Western help.
We really don't think that we have any enemies in the West now. So we don't think that West has to pay us something for this kind of the measures. We don't think that the West have to buy its security by providing the pre-financial sources to Russia.
Gaidar, however, said Yeltsin would be pushing President Bush and other Western leaders to cough up money for a monetary stabilization package that would help prop up the ruble until a permanent fund becomes available once Russia becomes a full member of the International Monetary Fund. Yeltsin, the economic aide said, would also be seeking Western understanding in the short run should Moscow be unable to make even interest payments on the gigantic debt run up by the former Soviet Union. Other former Soviet republics have stopped helping Russia pay off the debt. Yeltsin certainly will not want to ruffle any feathers. The country will have run through its winter grain stocks by month's end and is relying heavily on Western credits, primarily from Washington, to import food needed for the rest of the winter. In New York, Yeltsin plans a session with the Japanese. Certain to come up is Russia's need for Japanese assistance and Japanese insistence that territorial disputes must be settled. The two nations still haven't signed a peace treaty after World War II, and Russia still controls the formerly Japanese Kuril Islands. But Soviet experts don't expect a straight land for aid trade.
I don't think that Japanese leaders and Prime Minister Miyazawa will directly link these two problems, islands and aid. Please give me a piece of your land, and in this case only, I'll give you something to eat.
The biggest surprises could come as Yeltsin sits down for talks with Chinese leader Li Peng. The two nations share a long Asian border that has seen outbreaks of bloody violence in the past, even when both countries were communist. Now that there's not even that in common, an attempt at economic accommodation is apparently on the agenda for this short but wide-ranging Yeltsin tour. Steve Hurst, CNN, London.
It is off on a wing and a prayer today for President Bush. He attended a prayer breakfast this morning in Washington and is leaving for the United Nations meetings in New York City. Mr. Bush has a speech to business leaders in Philadelphia en route. That's the first in a series to win allies in the economic campaign with Congress. While in New York, President Bush also is scheduled to meet with the Chinese Premier, Li Peng. But 19 U.S. senators are urging the president to call this meeting off, saying it would send the wrong signal to those who suffer in China and in Tibet. CNN's Mike Chenoy has a look at Li Peng's upcoming trip to the United Nations.
He was the man who announced the imposition of martial law in Beijing, the Chinese leader most closely identified with the bloody crackdown on the Tiananmen Square democracy movement in June 1989. But today, 2.5 years later, Prime Minister Li Peng has confounded a hostile public and a skeptical world by not only surviving politically, but by leading China out of its post-Tiananmen Square diplomatic isolation.
Premier Li Peng is a very wily and very intelligent politician in his own right. He's a very intelligent man, much more intelligent than people may give him credit for.
Li Peng's participation at the United Nations Summit will be just the latest in a series of moves that have helped China's communist leadership regain its place in the world, from Secretary of State Baker to British Prime Minister John Major to Japan's then Prime Minister Toshiki Kaifu. Li has hosted a series of high-level visitors in Beijing. And from trips to New Delhi and Moscow and beyond, he has traveled the world, underscoring Beijing's determination to flex its muscles on the international stage. On the domestic front, too, Prime Minister Li has some solid achievements to his credit. Since Tiananmen Square, the Chinese leadership has managed to keep the lid on politically, yet still move ahead with market-oriented economic changes. And there is increasing talk, even from hardliners like Li, of the need to accelerate reform. To be sure, Li Peng presides over what is still a harsh communist dictatorship. But the relatively stable situation in China does stand in sharp contrast to the chaos in the former Soviet Union. But some officials have expressed concern the administration may be getting not the best, but the worst of both worlds, opening itself to domestic criticism for holding the meeting at all, but so limiting the time as to offend the Chinese and virtually eliminate the possibility of the two leaders actually dealing with any of the issues that divide them. Mike Chenoy, CNN, at the United Nations.
10 republics in the Commonwealth of Independent States are now members of the Conference on Security and Cooperation in Europe. Today's decision at a Prague meeting means that all the former Soviet republics, except Georgia, are now CSCE members. Russia had already inherited the membership of the old Soviet Union. Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania joined last September. The CSCE also granted observer status to Croatia and Slovenia after Yugoslavia's representative opposed their entry as full members. The French government is being criticized for letting Palestinian faction leader George Habash into the country for medical treatment. Habash, the alleged mastermind of Palestinian terrorist tactics, reportedly suffered a stroke in Tunisia. He was taken to France for treatment by a Red Cross air ambulance. French President Francois Mitterrand says there are no arrest warrants outstanding for Habash and declined to intervene. Habash reportedly was left partly paralyzed by past strokes, and he may face brain surgery.
With a new wave of Haitian refugees surging into Guantanamo Bay, the United States is moving quickly to house them. And the Space Shuttle Discovery prepares for touchdown in California. More on those stories when World Day returns.
Car and Driver magazine declared its road manners are in the import vein, but comfort is better. And if you're wondering what else they had to say about the new Oldsmobile 88 Royale, call 1-800-332-OLDS. We'll send you their complete test drive evaluation on video cassette, free. Because when Car and Driver says the new 88 has hit the elusive style mark, it deserves more of your time than we can give it here. Oldsmobile, the power of intelligent engineering.
Some people don't know it, but they're paying too much in taxes. Take these two, identical in many ways. Similar homes, similar income, similar investments. But one could be paying 28% more tax on his savings and investment income. That's over $200 on every $800 earned. The other called Fidelity Investments toll-free and found out how to invest tax-free in this free fact kit on Fidelity tax-free funds. It shows you how to earn income that's 100% free from federal income taxes. And in some states, your income may be free from state and local taxes, too. And there's no sales charge, which means all your money is working for you. So call for your free fact kit on Fidelity Investments tax-free funds. Call right now and you'll also get this bonus booklet, Understanding Tax-Free Investing. See how Fidelity gives you the facts you need to make up your own mind without pressure.
Hello, Fidelity?
Keep more of what you earn. Call 1-800-3284-100 today. Fidelity Investments. Common sense, uncommon results.
Ricola, the all-natural herb cough drop imported from Switzerland. Ricola has been soothing throats and relieving coughs naturally for over 60 years.
Today, he was a top aide to President Reagan and the Iran-Contra affair's central figure. An interview with Oliver North. Plus, recognizing sexual harassment. Both today on Sonia Live, 1 p.m. Eastern on CNN.
Police in California have shot and killed a man who drove off with an interstate bus with 8 people on board. The man commandeered the bus in the southwest city of Phoenix, Arizona, and drove it into California. Police in Colton, east of Los Angeles, used roadblocks to force the bus off the highway and trap it in a residential area. Authorities say there was a struggle when the suspect emerged from the bus and shots were fired. No passengers are reported hurt.
The 8-day mission of the Space Shuttle Discovery is about to end with the scheduled landing coming in nearly an hour. Here's CNN's John Holliman now with the latest. John?
The second most critical event in the shuttle mission has just taken place. After a successful launch, the astronauts and ground controllers tense up an hour before landing because a successful landing depends on what NASA calls the deorbit burn. The shuttle, which is flying upside down and backwards, fires its rear-mounted rockets for a few seconds. The result is Discovery slows dramatically and begins the slow, measured descent from orbit. The international crew will take about 10 minutes to turn the orbiter right side up and point the nose forward. In half an hour, Discovery will enter the Earth's atmosphere over Hawaii and will light up the still dark sky like a fireball. It will create a bright green streak all the way from Hawaii to the California coast and will touch down at Edwards Air Force Base just after 11 a.m. Eastern Time. CNN, of course, plans to have live coverage of that. NASA's bought some new long-range cameras, and they hope to start sending us live pictures of the shuttle 10 to 15 minutes before touchdown. Discovery has flown 14 times in space and has traveled a distance equal to half the way to Mars. NASA officials say this mission so far has had fewer problems than any other involving the Space Lab and perhaps any mission in NASA history. For the astronauts, after landing, one of the first important jobs is taking a shower. Astronaut Norm Thagard says he'd kill for a shower right now and expects to solve that problem before lunchtime. Reid?
Well, John, you know, despite improved relations between Damascus and Syria, and Washington, rather, Syria is going to remain on the United States list of those nations that allegedly engage in state-sponsored terrorism. Secretary of State James Baker says there's no justification for removing Syria, or for that matter, any of the other 5 nations from that list. The countries, Iran, Iraq, Libya, Cuba, and North Korea, are barred from certain economic and trade benefits.
A 51-year-old Cuban is reportedly receiving medical attention at the U.S. naval base at Guantanamo Bay after a daring dash from Cuba. 12 other members of his family, however, reportedly were captured by Cuban authorities. A State Department official says the Cuban forces opened fire as the group tried to reach the American base last weekend. A boy and girl were reportedly wounded. The U.S. Navy says some 3,700 Cubans have defected to the base since 1964. The U.S. ambassador to Haiti says Haiti's military leaders are encouraging up to 20,000 refugees to leave for the United States. The reason, says the ambassador, Alvin Adams, is to force the U.S. government to negotiate with the new leaders in Haiti. The Coast Guard says nearly 14,000 Haitians have been picked up since the military coup in Haiti in late September. The huge numbers of refugees at Guantanamo Bay are said to be putting a big strain on the base and the Coast Guard.
Ireland's Prime Minister Charles Haughey said today that he is stepping down. The 66-year-old leader announced a decision to step down today in a meeting with parliamentary deputies from his ruling party. This move is the result of a 10-year-long scandal implicating Mr. Haughey in the illegal wiretapping of 2 journalists. The Prime Minister reportedly will resign on February the 10th. That would be the day before his party confirms his successor.
Still to come on World Day, what are the prospects for troop cuts in Europe and nuclear cuts in the U.S. and Russia? We'll get some answers from Secretary of Defense Dick Cheney in an interview with CNN's Wolf Blitzer.
Over 35 million people are dead. 1,700 cities and townships are destroyed. 6 million Jews were annihilated. War is a symphony of destruction.
Diesem Deutschland dienst du, wird heute Deutschland in stolzer Freude deines...
Orchestrated by few and paid for by many. Now Time magazine allows you a forbidden look at World War II in a 2-part video set entitled World War II, The Untold Story, free with your paid subscription to Time. We've gathered unique films from the War Department and combined them with captured enemy footage, some never seen before in public. These 2 exciting videos can be yours, free from Time magazine. Let Time take you behind the scenes in politics, the arts, and social issues. Call now, and you'll get 26 issues for 3 easy payments of $9.89 each. That's almost 55% off the cover price. And we'll include World War II, the video set, for free. Fly with pilots on actual fighting missions and lay low in the trenches with our GIs. Help storm the beaches of Normandy and see confidential footage of Rommel in the desert. There is a horror to the nightmare of war and a glory. Call this number now and get great savings on Time magazine and your World War II video set free. This offer won't be available for long, so call now.
On defense, the lowest level since before Pearl Harbor. Similar chart with respect to...
I'm CNN's Wolf Blitzer, and I'm here at the Pentagon the morning after the Defense Department released its new budget. And joining us this morning on CNN is the Secretary of Defense, Dick Cheney. Thank you very much for joining us.
Morning, Wolf.
The base force, the new level of troops that you envisage down the road, is the same base force that existed, that you anticipated before the collapse of the Soviet Union. Given the tumultuous event, why isn't there room for more troop cuts now?
Well, I think the important thing is that we devised the base force as a result of the collapse of the Soviet position in Eastern Europe. The Warsaw Pact ended. Soviet forces withdrew from Eastern Europe, and there was no longer the need for us to be prepared to fight an all-out global war that began with a land conflict in Europe. We shifted to a new strategy that focused on regional contingencies, such as we've just been through in the Gulf. That produced a plan that is a 5-year plan. It takes us 5 years to get down to the level that we recommended in the base force. The suggestion now that we ought to cut even deeper or take it down faster somehow, I think would do enormous violence to the integrity of the force itself. This is an all-volunteer force. It's a force that is being reduced very rapidly. We've already taken 4 divisions off active status. The United States Army, for example, 2 of the divisions that undertook that campaign into southern Iraq in the Gulf had 22,000 men each of them. Those divisions are no more. Flags have been retired. But the notion that somehow we can more rapidly adjust now and take the force down even farther or faster, I think would do great violence to try to maintain the quality of the force itself. It is going to be significantly smaller. It'll be cheaper than it's been in the past for us to maintain it, but the U.S. still needs significant military capability.
There are going to be many members of Congress who are going to want more troop cuts, especially in Europe. Now, you envisage 160,000 U.S. troops in Europe. Given the collapse of the Soviet Union, the end of the Cold War, are that many troops still needed in Europe?
We have already deactivated 2 of the 4 divisions that were in Europe. They've been brought home. The size of the deployment over there is based upon the new NATO strategy that we worked out with our allies. It'll require roughly half the active duty force that the U.S. had previously in Europe. But we want to retain a presence in Europe. We want to have a usable military force there, something that we can do something with, not only for European security questions, but also as a forward basing area for us to respond to other contingencies. The Middle East is a lot closer to Europe than it is the continental United States, and then we use 2 of those European divisions in the conflict in the Gulf. So keeping some capability in Europe is, I think, important long-term. It's important also to keep the North Atlantic Treaty Organization tied together, to keep our security and that of Germany and UK and France tied together. So that kind of continued U.S. presence on the ground in Europe is very important. There'll be a debate over exactly how many it ought to be, but having a presence there is vital.
Changing gears a little bit, shifting gears, what about the meeting this weekend between President Bush and Russian President Yeltsin? Do you anticipate that there's going to be some sort of breakthrough announcement, an agreement on a new strategic arms reduction?
I don't think there'll be any agreement signed at this point, but clearly what's happening is there's a lot of movement on both sides. The President's September 27th initiative that dealt with tactical nuclear weapons, his announcement in the State of the Union speech of another proposal, some additional unilateral actions we're taking, such as canceling our modernization programs, the proposal to take the multiple warhead systems off the land-based missiles, President Yeltsin's statement this week. There's a lot out there on both sides that we need to spend time talking to each other about so that we better understand exactly what kinds of steps are being taken, a timetable for these steps, and also probably begin a negotiation process with respect to this issue of demerving. That is something that does have to be negotiated. It goes beyond the START agreement. Clearly this, though, will be one of the major items on the agenda this weekend.
Do you expect President Yeltsin to agree to President Bush's proposal to eliminate all multiple warhead missiles, land-based missiles, in what was the Soviet Union?
I think we're closer than we've ever been to achieving that goal. Those are the most dangerous weapons, the most destabilizing weapons. It's been an objective for a long time for us to get rid of them. The President's offered to give up our Peacekeeper missiles, 10 warhead system, to download our Minuteman system so there's only 1 warhead on each missile. The proposal to reduce the number of warheads that we deploy on our sea-based systems is a new offer from the United States. I think it will be well received by the Russians, and so I would expect that, I think it's fair to say we're closer than we've ever been to achieving that objective, but I think there's still some work that needs to be done before we'll be in a position where we can actually sign an agreement.
Do you think Yeltsin will agree to that this weekend?
I doubt that we'll go beyond the public positions that have been enunciated in the last week, but what is required is a lot of discussion back and forth as to exactly what this means. There's another area of concern we have too, Wolf, and that's the question about long-term plans for force structure. It's a little difficult at this point to know exactly where the Russians are headed with their overall force levels, and one of the things we want to explore with them is what their long-term plans are in terms of what they think they really need to retain.
What about Mr. Yeltsin's proposal of sharing the Strategic Defense Initiative, the so-called Star Wars program, as opposed to the U.S. doing it unilaterally?
We've indicated in the past that we're prepared to share, for example, early warning information with the Soviets. That was a subject that was mentioned by Gorbachev. President Reagan's talked about it in the past. I think we want to look at exploring these kinds of suggestions. I'm glad that they're willing to at least consider the possibility of deploying defenses. We think it's an important step to reduce the extent to which we rely on offensive weapons and emphasize a greater reliance on defensive capability. And that mix of offense and defense, we think would be a much more stable sort of posture for us to be in long term.
But you have no intention, and we only have a few seconds left, of accepting his proposal to stop the SDI project.
No, we're not prepared to stop the SDI project by any means. It's a very important capability. It's vital that we defend ourselves against ballistic missile threats, especially in the third world that are developing. We do not want to halt SDI. It's a key priority for us.
Mr. Secretary, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
And for CNN, I'm Wolf Blitzer at the Pentagon.
And we'll have more ahead when World Day returns, including a present-day threat from the old Nazi era, chemical weapons.
I was afraid of the computer, but with Quicken, it's easy to use.
I never worry about money, now that I use Quicken.
Yes, Quicken, the world's #1 selling financial software and the fastest, easiest way to organize your home and small business finances. Quicken pays bills, balances checkbooks, cuts tax time, tracks investments. And it's simple. If you can use a checkbook, you can use Quicken because your screen looks exactly like your checkbook. Just type in the payee, the amount, and Quicken does the rest. Every transaction is automatically categorized. A keystroke gives you detailed reports like income and expenses, showing where your money goes, monthly budgets, and more.
Quicken just reconciled my whole bank statement in 2 minutes.
So, if you have an IBM or compatible PC with DOS or Windows or a Mac, here's an incredible offer. Quicken's price is $69.95. But call this number and Quicken is yours to try for 30 days for just $8. If not satisfied, mail back this card and Quicken is yours to keep. We won't charge you the balance. Call now.
Call 1-800-251-4200.
Recently, DuPont announced that its energy unit Conoco would pioneer the use of new double-hold oil tankers in order to safeguard the environment. The response has been overwhelmingly positive. DuPont, better things for better living.
Explore Australia's exotic terrain, brave treacherous whitewater rapids, and brace yourself for the Master Blasters. It's not your average Sunday night. It's Explorer. 9 Eastern Sunday night on TBS.
Hello, I'm Ted Textor in Atlanta. There is rain in the East China Sea and snow in Moscow. We'll have the weather in between as well in just a little bit. Here's Reid Collins.
Ted, tons of chemical weapons that the Nazis made but never used are returning to haunt modern Germany. Most had been dumped in the Baltic and North Seas after the war, but now they are leaking, the canisters, that is. And German television says 100 fishermen were poisoned last year, and tons of poisoned fish have been sold to Poland and Denmark. Tourism also is threatened. This television report says an area east of Denmark's Bornholm Island is the most at risk.
In Vienna today, North Korea bowed to international pressure and signed an agreement allowing nuclear inspections. But in Seoul, some North Korea watchers are still uneasy. Inspections by the International Atomic Energy Agency will not begin until June. Some skeptics say the delay could give North Korea enough time to complete a nuclear arsenal or hide nuclear facilities. North Korea denies it has a nuclear weapons program. In Japan, guest workers from other nations say they do not like their working conditions or the environment. Japan's largest bank surveyed 300 non-Japanese and found 90% were unhappy. The guest workers say communication and cultural differences cause most problems, but they also cited a Japanese mania for unproductive business meetings, slow decision-making, and a difficulty in finding out who is in charge. Most say, however, they find it easy to work with Japanese colleagues.
Look at the top stories, and business news is just ahead on World Day. And the latest round of Yugoslav peace talks has yielded results. There are still some roadblocks, though. United Nations envoy Marek Goulding is headed back to New York to give a status report.
Kids laugh when I talk. I hate words. I want to be a writer.
Usually, when you send flowers out of town, you give the order to somebody who takes a cut. Then he passes the order to somebody else who takes a cut. But now there's Flowers Direct that actually lets you speak to a florist in the town where you're sending the flowers. Flowers Direct, or We Cut, is the middleman. Call Flowers Direct now, 1-800-621-2121.
World Day continues, followed by Day Watch after this local commercial break, next on CNN.
We're at Robert's Dairy to study the making of their low-fat yogurt. After primping themselves for a formal evening out, the yogurt cows sashay past the paparazzi into the milking complex. Yesterday, Paco Bell's Cannon in D. Today, the Blue Danube Waltz, the particular favorite of the blueberry cow. One thing is clear, Robert's yogurt cows are the product of good breeding and active culture.
Robert's, how do you make it taste so good?
Home Shopping Club, where celebrities feel right at home.
I'm Beverly Sassoon. Enjoy fresh, healthy skin with my Collagen skincare system, only on Home Shopping Club.
I'm Jack LaLanne. Increase your energy and stamina with Fit Over 50, only on Home Shopping Club.
Hi, I'm Brenda Dycraft. Bring out the champion within you with my complete line of fitness products only on Home Shopping Club.
Home Shopping Club. Great bargains, guaranteed.
This is CNN.
Checking our top stories now. Russian President Boris Yeltsin and British Prime Minister John Major have signed a declaration on military and economic cooperation. The two leaders met today in London. The agreement calls for Britain and Russia to consider cooperation in the disposal of some nuclear weapons in Russia. After the talks, Mr. Yeltsin spoke about the Russian economy and the potential for political instability.
Она может отреагировать только на крупные взрывы.
Despite the seemingly economic chaos and the forecast by the economists that our economy will shrink by 15%, last year it has shrunk only by 2.2%. Russia is a great country and it will dampen all small storms and smaller earthquakes. The only thing that can impede our progress would be general unrest. And general unrest would happen if our reforms fail. Should the reforms fail, we shall face a new leadership which will reverse the progress that we have so far achieved. and Russia will fall into the abyss which had been digged for 74 years.
Earlier, Mr. Yeltsin dismissed rumors that he had been ill. He repeated the famous Mark Twain quote about reports of his death being exaggerated. Well, membership in the Conference on Security and Cooperation in Europe jumped by 10 today with admission for 10 former Soviet republics. Former Yugoslav republics Slovenia and Croatia were granted observer status after Yugoslavia blocked full membership for them. The CSCE now has 48 member states. The shuttle Discovery is on its way home. Early this morning, final preparations were made for re-entry into the atmosphere. No problems have been reported with today's descent. The shuttle is scheduled to touch down at Edwards Air Force Base in California at 11:07 Eastern Time, and CNN will have live coverage.
Now, latest financial news, we're going to Bill Hartley at the New York Stock Exchange. Bill.
Reid, stock spent the first hour of trading pretty much just churning around. After plunging 47 points late yesterday, the Dow Jones Industrial Average opened higher this morning, up as many as 12 points, then it fell 9. Right now it is up 2 points even at just under 3,227. Volume once again heavy, 50 million shares traded so far, and about 7 stocks are heading down for every 5 that are heading up. On the broader and secondary markets, all 4 key indexes are lower. Investors giving a warm welcome to Coca-Cola's fourth quarter results. Earnings rose almost 22%. And the company's management says it intends to recommend a 2-for-1 stock split to the board next month. On that news, the stock's up 2 1/8. That's 73 5/8. Another big mover today is Xerox, up 2 3/4 at 73 1/4. Fourth quarter income plunged more than 60%, but excluding special charges, operating earnings were up a bit. Mixed economic signals today, but little to suggest the recovery has begun. Good news is that Americans made more and spent more in December. Personal spending rose by 0.3%, income gained 1%. That increase in income, the largest in 2 years. But troubling news in the manufacturing sector, orders for durable goods fell sharply last month. A 5% decline in December was the biggest in more than a year. 1991, the worst year for durable goods orders in 9 years. And unemployment lines can keep growing. 464,000 more people filed for first-time unemployment claims in mid-January. That's 24,000 more than the week before. Today's economic news is not moving interest rates very much. Bond prices holding steady after plunging yesterday. Treasuries 30 years shoot down just 2/32. The yield 7.75%. U.S. dollar fractionally changed against the world's major currencies, up against the British pound, down against the German mark, and the Japanese yen. That's the latest in business news. One last check of the Dow shows it's still on the upside, a gain of almost 8 points. We'll have another report in 1 hour. I'm Bill Hartley, reporting live from the New York Stock Exchange.
And in Yugoslavia, a United Nations envoy says it'll be a while yet before UN peacekeepers can be deployed there. That and more ahead on World Day.
Remember when cats sang for Meow Mix?
Meow, 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 meow.
Well, now there's an all-new Meow Mix. With flavors cats prefer 3 to 1. If cats sang for the old Meow Mix, what'll they do now? All new Meow Mix. Tastes so good, cats ask for it by name.
Meow.
To say the least.
Your perception of German luxury cars is about to do a 180. The car 3 of Germany's top automotive publications chose as best in this class was neither Mercedes nor BMW, but the all-new Audi 100. The all-new Audi 100. First, at last.
The Murine Earwax Removal System has drops that safely loosen hardened wax when used as directed, plus an ear washer to gently flush wax away. Murine, the complete medically approved system to safely remove earwax. The voices of American voters.
Washington, D.C.'s going to have to listen.
I think people are disappointed.
We keep having to compromise.
Jobs everywhere.
That the new middle class cannot survive.
Frustration is running high this election year.
I really don't know what we're going to do.
In a 2-hour special, you'll hear how Americans really feel about crime, unemployment, education, 10 major issues that will define this election. The People's Agenda, a Democracy in America special, Sunday, 9 Eastern on CNN.
Hello, I'm Bob Cain. Coming up at the top of the hour for our U.S. viewers, the Space Shuttle Discovery will be touching down, we think, in about the first 10 minutes of our program. We'll have live coverage. Also, we will walk you through what is most definitely a car buyer's market on Day Watch following World Day at the top of the hour. Bobbie?
Bob, thanks. In Yugoslavia, a United Nations envoy says it will be a while before UN peacekeepers can be deployed there. But he says impediments can be overcome. Jackie Szymanski reports on the peace mission of Merrick Golding.
The latest round of Yugoslav peace talks are over for United Nations envoy Merrick Golding. After a day of meetings, he announced plans to deploy UN peacekeepers in Yugoslavia are gaining support from both sides of the conflict.
I've received categorical assurances that the plan is accepted by a large number of my interlocutors. And I think there is, as I've said before, a very wide acceptance of the plan here. What is needed now is to tie up some loose ends.
But the loose ends could prove a stumbling block. The peace plan includes placing UN troops in areas where the heaviest fighting occurred between Croatian and Yugoslav federal forces. The leader of one such region, Krajina, has rejected that, saying the region must stay under Serbian control.
The first objection is Serbian Krajina is treated like a region of Croatia. Our second is the concept of demilitarizing Serbian Krajina, but leaving Croatian forces.
Despite that, Goulding was optimistic. He said the 25-day-old ceasefire appeared to be holding, the main condition before UN Blue Berets are sent in.
The violations of the ceasefire are not sufficiently numerous or grave to make it impossible to consider deploying a peacekeeping force in this country.
The UN envoy said he could not announce a timetable for the deployment until the remaining obstacles had been worked out. About 10,000 United Nations forces will be placed in Croatia. Goulding now heads back to New York to report on this latest round of peace talks. With acceptance of the UN plan so close, it won't be long before negotiators are back at the table again. Jackie Szymanski for CNN, Belgrade.
In the countryside of El Salvador, workers unload the sugar cane and travelers cross checkpoints freely as that country makes the transition to peace. For 12 years, though, civil war had ripped apart El Salvador's rural areas. As CNN's Ronnie Lovler reports, things are quite different now.
This small mountain village in northern El Salvador is an indication of just how much things are already changing in the countryside. The rebels' once clandestine radio Farabundo Martí is now broadcasting publicly. A house clearly marked by the red flag of the Farabundo Martí National Liberation Front has replaced the cave the rebel radio used as its studio during the days of war. And when the radio decided to hold a public celebration of the 10th anniversary of its founding, villagers joined in the festivities, along with guerrilla troops, rebel sympathizers, international observers, and the just plain curious. The situation in this town was markedly different just 8 months ago. Then, soldiers and civilians had a head-on clash over a brief military incursion into the village. Now, people dance the night away in the same plaza where they took on the army.
For so many years, we were threatened by the repression with this war. This is the moment in which the Salvadoran people are demonstrating their gratitude, their happiness with banners in support of the FMLN.
With the army about to undergo tremendous changes in its size and mandate, soldiers are more relaxed. Even a midday run by a group of soldiers in the provincial capital of Chalatenango was being undertaken more as an exercise in physical fitness than anything else. This bridge used to separate what was theoretically the war zone from the capital, and it was difficult for people to cross this informal border. Military roadblocks were set up at intersections, where people traveling on public buses had to get off and show their documents before being allowed to proceed. Now, vehicles whiz by without soldiers blinking an eye. Even buses like these, decked out with pro-rebel banners. In the rebel camps, brightly painted signs welcome visitors. The troops are relaxed and laid back in these days of transition, preparing themselves for new lives as civilians and participation in the political mainstream.
We consider ourselves the protagonists of change, but we don't think we have all the answers. But together with the rest of the Salvadoran society, we will find the answers.
A few miles away, tons of sugarcane are being unloaded for processing at a nearby mill. Last year, a heavy contingent of government soldiers would have stood guard. Now, only a few soldiers are on duty. Peasants work their land, presenting a picture of tranquility. For 12 years, people talked about the situation as a euphemism for the Civil War. Now with peace, the situation has changed, and that euphemism is beginning to mean something entirely different. Ronnie Lovler, CNN, San Jose Las Flores, El Salvador.
And still to come on World Day, Magic Johnson makes plans to compete on the basketball court again. Tom Stinar will have that story and the rest of the sports news in a moment.
Doctors know there's a flaw in eggs. They're high in cholesterol, and diets high in cholesterol and fat can contribute to heart disease. Fleischmann's Egg Beaters are 99% real egg with 0 cholesterol and 0 fat. Egg Beaters, eggs without the flaw.
Call me a trendsetter, but I was eating wheat thins before people knew why they were baked and not fried. Now everybody knows who needs a greasy chip, right? Besides, wheat thins are delicious. Delicious is still in, isn't it?
They say diversify to reduce risk, but I'm no financial expert.
I know how to build a house, not a portfolio.
How do you judge each investment? When to buy or sell?
And who has time to follow the market?
Because most people can't be masters at everything, Fidelity Investments created the Fidelity Asset Manager. In one easy mutual fund, it seeks to diversify among and across stocks, bonds, and money markets. And Fidelity professionals carefully watch your investment for you, gradually adjusting your assets to keep pace with changes in the market.
It's designed for those of us who aren't financial experts.
Call now for this free fact kit on the Fidelity Asset Manager.
I called. You should too. There's no pressure to invest. There's no sales charge either. All your money works for you.
Diversification made simple. Call 1-800-356-8100 for your free fact kit. Fidelity Investments. Common sense, uncommon results. Share price, yield, and return will vary.
Today, it sets the pace for the months ahead. But is the first primary make or break for most candidates? Weighing the significance of New Hampshire on Inside Politics 92, today at 4:30 p.m. Eastern on CNN.
Well, those Discovery astronauts are getting updates about the weather as their landing approaches. Let's all find out about the weather for the world and Ted Textor. Ted.
Reid, just to update you, in Edwards Air Force Base, they have a calm breeze. The temperature now is about 27 degrees Fahrenheit, or -3 on the Celsius scale, and the skies are almost unlimited at 45 knot visibility. That's about 55 miles, and the scattered ceiling, or it's not even a ceiling, just scattered cloud cover at about 20,000 feet. We go now to South America to show you what's going on. There is a variety of weather all across this continent with some scattered showers, low pressure on down further to the south. Montevideo is just about where it's located, and that is disturbing the atmosphere there, producing just a little bit of light rain and moderate thunder shower activity further to the north. And on the west side of the continent, it looks like mainly fog throughout this early part of the day there. The conditions at 1200 Greenwich Mean Time or Universal Coordinated Time are indicated here on the side. And we move now to the Pacific to give you a real good idea of what's going on there. Primarily, it is rain shower activity just to the north around the East China Sea, east coast of China, mainly light rain shower activity and a bit of fog as well. A lot of moisture associated with this stationary front that then positions itself just to the south of Japan, producing some light rain there. Further to the north now in Japan, there's a bit of snow shower activity with high pressure on further to the north over Mongolia, producing just a little bit of cool breeze pushing on further southward. All across Indonesia, a scattering of showers and thunder shower activity, and down across to Australia, just in the northernmost part primarily, that's where we're finding shower and thunder shower activity. Now we move to Europe to see conditions there. Not too bad, really, with high pressure just about over the British Isles and North Sea, producing mainly fog. Once again, lots of fog across the globe this day. It is mainly fog across the British Isles. A little bit of shower activity cannot be ruled out in northern parts of Scandinavia. Light snow showers there with cooler temperature readings. And snow is also the case all the way from about Istanbul, Turkey, on further to the north to Moscow. It is a little bit cooler in that part of the world. Now these forecasts for cities around the globe. I hope the weather's okay for you wherever you are in the world. Now here's Bobbie Battista.
All right, Ted, thanks. Well, the tropical heat in Bangkok, Thailand has felled one golfer on the tour. Here's Tom Stinar with sports.
Yes, indeed. Woozy left a bit woozy today. Oppressive Bangkok heat got the best of the world's #1 golfer, Ian Woosnam. He suffered heat stroke and was taken to a hospital for treatment. Twice, Woosnam required oxygen. And despite vomiting and having trouble with his breathing, the stubborn Welshman refused to quit. He didn't do too poorly either, shooting a 1 under par 71. The leader after one round of this tournament, the Asian Classic, is Britain's Stephen Richardson. He equaled the course record of 63. The 25-year-old Richardson swept to the top of the leaderboard with 6 birdies in the back 9 for a 2-stroke lead over Spaniard Seve Ballesteros and Sweden's Mats Lanner. The rape trial of former world heavyweight champion Mike Tyson has taken on a circus-like atmosphere in the Indiana city of Indianapolis. Along with regular citizens, throngs of reporters have been competing for limited seating in the small Marion County courtroom. Scalpers are getting upwards of $100 for a pass inside the building. The 12 jurors are in place and opening arguments are being heard today. The woman who accused Tyson of raping her last summer could be called to the witness stand as early as this afternoon. Well, 1 week after some of the players from Australia's national basketball team threatened to boycott the U.S. Olympic team if Magic Johnson plays in Barcelona, the Magic Man accepted an invitation to play in Australia. Johnson, who retired from the NBA 2 months ago after testing HIV positive, is expected to compete in a series of games throughout Australia next year. Magic also confirmed Wednesday that he will play in the upcoming NBA All-Star Game, and he hasn't ruled out a return to pro basketball. Now let's get you caught up on all the World Day scores on a roll. America's top female luger is not only a frequent flyer on ice, but in the skies as well. As Jim Huber reports in this edition of the Games of '92, Bonnie Warner is hoping to soar to new heights next month in France.
Whether it is alone on a sled going through an ice tunnel or in a cockpit with 200 passengers behind her, Bonnie Warner flies.
A lot of people would think that both luge and flying have a lot in common, and because they think that both might be some kind of daredevil thing, and in fact, it's exactly the opposite. You don't want daredevils in a cockpit, and you don't want a daredevil on a luge sled.
Well, she should know, America's premier female luger. She is also a licensed second officer aboard United Airlines 727 flights.
The job of being a pilot, in my opinion, has got to be the best job in the entire world. I mean, other people might argue with me, but at first, when I first started flying, I said, I don't want to be an airline pilot. They're just glorified taxi drivers. But I tell you, it's one hell of a taxi. And it's fun.
The concentration it takes to be a pilot comes in handy on the sled. Her mind in the clouds, even when on the ground.
It's easy to get lost in all the hoopla and all that kind of stuff, but I try to really just focus on the race itself. In fact, the morning after of opening ceremonies, the coach was telling us, be sure to get dressed at such a time. And I said, for what? And they said, well, for the opening ceremonies. Oh, I forgot. So I was really just focusing on the race, and my goal was to finish top 6. And I just knew that if I had a good race, it would happen, and it did.
Her 6th-place finish in Calgary in 1988 was the highest ever by an American in this sport. Albertville could be even better.
The track in Albertville is a challenging track. It's much more challenging than Calgary, which is definitely more in our favor, in the whole U.S. team's favor.
Hoping then that the track will become as friendly as the skies have been for Bonnie Warner. For the Games of '92, I'm Jim Huber.
Last week, Warner finished 12th in the overall World Cup point standings. And that is your World Day Sports. Join Jim Huber beginning at noon Eastern Time, and he'll have details of one of the biggest college basketball upsets of the year. The news continues in just a moment.
AT&T is constantly searching for new ways to help our customers save money on long distance.
Forecasts, look at profiles, we do comparisons.
And what we've recently discovered is remarkably simple.
We just got the airline tickets, so...
Those customers who spend over $11 a month on out-of-state long distance could start saving right away by signing up for one of the AT&T Reach Out America plans. If you spend over $11 a month, you could save on long distance, too. All it takes is one call to 1-800-422-3000.
AT&T, this is Terry. How can I help you?
Hi, Terry. I was wondering if you could help us save some money on our long-distance calls.
This is about people. We have to put ourselves in the customer's place.
Why don't you tell me a little about the way you use long distance?
Well, we make long-distance calls all day long.
You'll learn how you could save 24 hours a day. 25% on calls made after 5 p.m.
I'd say 25% is a pretty good chunk.
And on some plans, enjoy a daytime discount.
I guess you could say we're pretty good customers.
Who are you talking to?
Terry, would you mind repeating that?
Not at all.
Reach Out America makes saving money simple by helping you save when you call without changing the way you
want to pick up the phone and be able to call your relatives, your loved ones, and not think how much it's going to cost you. You can save 24 hours a day. There's a 25% discount in the evenings and a daytime discount as well.
My husband has a sister in Madrid that he calls sometimes.
That's perfect. We offer a discount on calls all over the world.
What about AT&T calling cards? We each have one.
No problem. You can save on calls wherever you are.
If you spend over $11 a month on long distance, there's a Reach Out America plan that can help you.
Do you really think
So call us now at 1-800-422-3000.
Good enough for me.
Thank you for calling AT&T.
Honey, that sounded pretty good. Why don't we sign up?
We just did.
Great. Who do we call?
Call AT&T and find out how one of the Reach Out America plans could help you save.
Cape Horn at the southern tip of South America has a grim reputation as a killer of ships. But Lawrence McGinty reports on a group of intrepid mariners who set out to tame the Horn in kayaks.
John and Rebecca Ridgway knew this would be the most dangerous part of the voyage, and it was. 16 miles of open sea that they feared so much, John Ridgway gave strict instructions that if he and Rebecca capsized, she should be rescued first. He'd already had a long life. In winds over 4-7, the canoeists could only turn and run with the storm. If it carried them away from land, they'd be in trouble. The sea was choppy, but they were lucky. It could have been worse. John Ridgway froze twice with horror on the crossing and readily confessed to being frightened all the way.
been a very good crossing. Captain frightened all the way.
That risky 16 miles to Cape Ross behind them, they pressed on south into Hartley Bay, hugging the coast to avoid the worst of the weather and seas. Nigel Dennis, rejoining after an almost fatal episode of blood poisoning, picked away through the rocks. It was close, too close for John Ridgway.
Oh, God.
With Rebecca close behind, he almost crashed into the towering rocks and had to push his kayak off with the paddle.
That was good. Huh? Very, very exciting. No, I'm very glad that didn't go in there.
Well, a big gust came and my paddle was blown out of my hand.
Forced to make an emergency camp, they dried off as best they could and ate. The usual diet was sardines, oatcakes, chocolate and fudge. Ahead lay the short push to the island of Cape Horn, and then the circumnavigation of the Cape itself. The weather was calm, but even as dolphins played by the kayaks and seabirds romped, it worsened as they approached Cape Horn Island, the land at the edge of the world. The greatest dangers here are the sudden storms and the ripping currents created by waves crashing against the cliffs. For 2 days, the storm warnings prevented them launching their kayaks. Then, a sudden dash for the Cape. Exposed to the South Pacific breakers, the swell and tide had all the canoeists, even the experts, straining every muscle to hold themselves away from deadly rocks. Rebecca, her father said, seemed to glide around the Cape. But both the Ridgways, even helped by the more experienced team members, still had hairy moments.
Only one really went away, seemed to break over me completely, but then it was okay once we got round to the sort of cliffs. It was fine.
I didn't see much scenery. All I can remember is just trying to keep afloat. There were some very, the most difficult things I've ever been involved in, really. I think.
For the father and daughter who conquered the Cape, a traditional ending.
Right.
And you know, it is summer off Cape Horn right now. In winter, the seas would be even far more dangerous. That's World Day. I'm Bobbie Battista from CNN Center in Atlanta.
But the champagne much cooler. I'm Reid Collins in Washington.
Coming up, Day Watch, followed by Cryer and Company, after a word from your local cable system here on CNN.
AE presents colors, the colors of flavor. AE colors are healthy and good. Yeah. Some of nature's best colors bring out the best flavor in AE low-fat yogurt. No preservatives, nothing artificial added. All natural is all you get in every delicious bite. Nobody colors flavors like AE.
Home Shopping Club, where celebrities feel right at home.
I'm Beverly Sassoon. Enjoy fresh, healthy skin with my Collagen skincare system, only on Home Shopping Club.
I'm Jack LaLanne. Increase your energy and stamina with Fit Over 50, only on Home Shopping Club.
Hi, I'm Brenda Dycraft. Bring out the champion within you with my complete line of fitness products only on Home Shopping Club.
Home Shopping Club, great bargains guaranteed.
Both the brown trout and the brook trout of the eastern streams and the
Isn't there anything else on?
Different people like different things.
This looks good.
Which is why this year at TCI,
This looks good. No.
we're spending over $600 million on cable programming.
No.
Just to make sure there's always something on. Everyone wants to watch.
Oh, hi. Want to see a story about the plastonauts?
At least that's the goal.
Here's one about a robot.
You know, a machine that's
This looks
used for
good.
different kinds of jobs.
Vince, remember how we got our jobs telling people to buckle up?
Yeah, it seems just like yesterday. Next.
To buckle or not to buckle?
Next.
Defend.
Next.
We are never going to find a safety belt spokesperson.
Let's get buckled!
Yeah, we've helped save thousands of lives.
But some people still don't buckle up. So let's hit it!
You could learn a lot from a dummy. Buckle your safety belt.
This is CNN.
The landing of the Space Shuttle Discovery now just minutes away. We will be there live.
These are days of wheeling and dealing in auto showrooms. We'll have some expert advice to make sure that you don't get taken for a ride. Those stories and more for this Thursday, January 30th.
This is Day Watch with Bob Cain and Donna Kelley. News for the conscientious consumer.
Good morning. Authorities say the man who hijacked a Greyhound bus and 8 passengers has been shot and killed. The episode came to an end in Colton, California, about 4 hours after it began in Phoenix. The hijacker drove the bus, authorities say, about 320 miles, hitting speeds as high as 70 miles an hour. He got trapped on a residential street just a few miles from the interstate freeway known as Highway 10. Authorities say the man, not yet officially identified, was shot and killed by a Colton police officer when he jumped from the bus and tried to run. There are reports that a struggle had begun. None of the 8 passengers, 5 men, 2 women, and a baby 18 months old, was injured. CNN correspondent Ann McDermott is on the scene in Colton, California. We will have more details as they become available.
An Indianapolis jury of 8 men and 4 women is hearing opening statements this hour in the rape trial of Mike Tyson. The former heavyweight boxing champ arrived in court today, surrounded by his friends and lawyers. The judge is warning that she'll seek contempt of court charges against anyone who sells courtroom passes on public property. One scalper says he made $100 selling one pass. Some relatives of Jeffrey Dahmer's victims say they'll sit through the entire trial, no matter how grisly the testimony gets. Opening statements in Dahmer's sanity trial are scheduled to begin this morning in Milwaukee. Dahmer has pleaded guilty to killing 15 men and boys. The jury will decide if he's to be sent to prison or a mental institution.
Well, they are supposed to be child's play, but what America's playgrounds can be is dangerous and sometimes deadly, according to the Consumer Federation of America. The group says 17 children died, 150,000 are hurt each year on public playgrounds. The group wants parents and government leaders to join forces to improve playground safety, and it has just released a parents' checklist for playground safety. At the top of that list, protective surfacing around play equipment. Other things parents are urged to check include the height and the spacing of equipment, and whether hardware present could hurt or trap children. Just ahead on Day Watch, the Shuttle Discovery coming in for a landing.
And we'll take the touchdown live for you. Stay with us.
TWA introduces low business flyer fares for business travelers who are really serious about saving money. Fly coast to coast with these low TWA fares on first class, business class, or coach. Or connect to 60 cities through TWA's convenient St. Louis hub. You can also take advantage of TWA's low business flyer fares to Europe. All fares are refundable without the usual penalties and restrictions. For reservations, call your travel agent or TWA at 1-800-221-2000.
Oh, no. My hair's not only going gray, now it's getting thinner. I wish they made something for gray, thinning hair.
They have Grecian Plus. Grecian Plus is a fresh-smelling foam that gradually brings back natural-looking color, the famous Grecian way. But this Grecian has a big plus. It builds body for healthier, fuller-looking hair.
Your hair looks great. Feels thicker, too.
Grecian Plus, the total treatment for gray, thinning hair.
So in my interview, they told me how Dow can take all this coal and turn it into clean burning gas.
Wouldn't that cut down on acid rain?
You got it.
Sounds like one serious job, son. I just wish it wasn't so far away.
Gonna miss you, Mike.
Hey, take care of this for me.
You can make a difference in what tomorrow brings.
Son, show them what you got.
'Cause Dow lets you do great things.
Kids, don't mind pasta
pasta classics are just the way to hide vegetables in perfectly good noodles and sauce, like we wouldn't notice.
New Del Monte Pasta Classics. So easy and delicious, some people are nervous.
Today, he was a top aide to President Reagan and the Iran-Contra affair's central figure. An interview with Oliver North. Plus, recognizing sexual harassment. Both today on Sonia Live, 1 p.m. Eastern on CNN.
Minutes away from touchdown.
The flight of Space Shuttle Discovery is nearing its conclusion. CNN's John Holliman joins us for the landing. John.
Donna, Space Shuttle Discovery is in the final 2 minutes of its 8-day mission right now. It's coming down on a concrete runway at Edwards Air Force Base, and we have a picture of it there live from an area, I guess, about 10 miles now away from the runway. The shuttle is traveling at less than 600 miles an hour, and it'll be on the ground in a matter, as we say, of about a minute and a half. It's coming down on a concrete runway at Edwards Air Force Base. NASA cameras have been monitoring its flight for the past 10 minutes, and from what they tell us, everything is working fine. These are cameras actually at Edwards Air Force Base as the shuttle makes its final turn across the runway. It'll be coming down on a concrete runway rather than on the dry lake bed, which is sometimes used for shuttle missions because there's been a good bit of rain in the Edwards Air Force Base area over the past several days, and consequently the lake bed is no longer dry. We'll listen now to NASA commentator Billy Deason as she talks us through the last few seconds of this Discovery mission.
Roger.
Altitude is 3,400 feet. And the equivalent airspeed is about 3,300 miles per hour coming around the coming into the final approach. Landing gear is locked in place. Hang gear touchdown. Nose gear touchdown as mission STS-42 rolls out on runway 22 at Edwards Air Force Base, California.
Well, that is quite a picture. There are 3,500 people who got up very early this morning to be there to see it live at Edwards Air Force Base. After touchdown, the astronauts will have to stay inside the Discovery until ground technicians remove all the leftover fuel from the various storage tanks aboard. Some of the fuel is poisonous, and nobody wants the astronauts to breathe bad fumes after completing this mission. The shuttle's braking system was improved recently, and it should take only about 30 seconds for Discovery to roll to a stop at Edwards. Imagine for a minute, if you will, that you've been cooped up in a closed area smaller than a school bus with 6 other people for 8 days. Imagine there's no shower, and there have been problems with the toilet. Now imagine what's going through the minds of the shuttle astronauts at this moment. Norm Taggart told ground controllers a couple of hours ago a shower is at the top of his wish list right now. Donna?
All right, John, thank you. Coming up on Day Watch, it's a buyer's market for new cars. Straight ahead in Watch Your Dollars, we'll explore some of the things that automakers are doing to attract customers.
Win a free trip to Asia's land of smiles, exotic Bangkok, Thailand. Enter Bay's Entree to Thailand recipe contest, and you may win a round trip for 2 on Thai Airways. Send us your original recipe using Bay's English muffins. And if you win, the week-long cooking school at the Oriental Hotel in Bangkok is yours. Plus, 4 days at a Thai beach resort or mountain hideaway. Look for specially marked packages in your grocer's dairy case. To the land of smiles from Bay's.
Smart Moves in Real Estate, brought to you by Coldwell Banker. Hi, this is Chris from Coldwell Banker. You wouldn't buy a home before checking it out because things aren't always what they seem. But what about checking out the people who help you buy? So here are 3 tips on choosing the best real estate agent. 1, ask about training. For example, Coldwell Banker sales associates receive the best training in the industry. 2, ask about the company they work for. Coldwell Banker provides their agents with a wide range of valuable support and services. And because we've been in business for over 85 years, you know you're working with a reliable, experienced company. So you can see, finding the agent who's best for you can really help in finding you the best home. Well, that's all for now. See you next time on Smart Moves in Real Estate from Coldwell Banker.
Are you finding it harder and harder to get home in time to watch the evening news?
And that's the news. Good night.
What's the rush? Headline News gives you the latest news, business, and sports around the clock.
President Bush is in Philadelphia right now. He's due to address a Chamber of Commerce meeting in about an hour. Mr. Bush has taken to the road in a bid to build public support for the economic proposals he unveiled on Tuesday in his State of the Union address. He is pushing Congress to pass a series of tax breaks by March 20th. Mr. Bush's act or else deadline does not sit well with many congressional Democrats. But members of the U.S. Conference of Mayors indicate their cities need economic help, and they need it now.
There's a real sense of urgency and a sense of emergency. And what we need from the federal government really are 3 things. It's jobs, housing, and a sense of hope. And we're not sure that as yet that we've heard that coming out of the messages over the last couple of days.
We're not starting from a base that's the same. We're starting off worse. We've got gang problems in cities like Mesa, Arizona. We didn't have that 10 or 12 years ago. And we don't really welcome some of those big city problems, and we don't have any ability right now to actually address them because the monies are handled up here and they're not getting to where they need to be on the streets.
Meantime, stock prices have edged up in light trading following a plunge of more than 47 points yesterday. The Commerce Department says orders for durable goods nosedived 5% in December, the first decline in 3 months. Orders for durable goods were off 4.6% for all of 1991. That is the largest annual loss since the recession year of 1982.
With new car sales stalled, or even worse, auto companies are trying to fuel consumer interest by offering an array of incentives. Ed Garston has details from Detroit as we begin today's Watch Your Dollars segment.
Very few really know what Fahrvergnügen means. That means very few Volkswagens found owners. So now the German car company has come up with a sales gimmick that uses a bad economy for good purpose. It's called Payment Protection Plus.
And if you incur a layoff within 3 years, we'll cover your car payments, plus your insurance payments.
They are off the hook. There is never any repayment.
Volkswagen says the idea grew out of a collection of news stories on the economy it put together.
We tried to get a good understanding about what consumers were listening to and hearing.
But of course, Volkswagen, like the other car companies, are not in the business of public service.
The bottom line of this is to sell cars. They are not running a charity, and I don't see anybody at VW that looks like Mother Teresa. I think they are, in fact, taking a rather innovative approach to a very bad market.
Hyundai is taking an innovative approach in trying to make sales and dispel the feeling that the South Korean-made cars were of low quality. So the company is giving its customers 2 years of free service on a new Hyundai.
When you buy a new 92 Hyundai, any model, all you're going to have to do is put gas in the car for the first 2 years.
Rosenau says since the program began late last year, sales have increased about 30%. In fact, almost every car company has a goodie or two to stimulate sales. All 3 U.S. car companies are offering both cash rebates and reduced financing. But those programs will end within a few days. 3 Japanese companies are offering cash rebates ranging from $500 to $1,000. And those programs expire in early February or early March. When the U.S. Big Three release their financial statements next month, they're expected to show that 1991 was the worst year on record. With that expectation in mind, one dealer told us he'll try any incentive to sell a car, even beg. Ed Garston, CNN, Detroit.
Joining us now to dissect the deals being offered to new car buyers is Leon Mandel. He's vice president and publisher of Autoweek magazine. Morning, Mr. Mandel.
Good morning.
The Volkswagen deal we just heard about, where they will make your car payments 1 year's worth for a period of up to 3 years, is that an act of desperation?
I don't think VW is any more desperate in the marketplace than any other car company. There is no car company selling cars in North America, by everyone's estimate, who is making money. That is to say, everybody selling cars in this hemisphere is losing money at it.
Are you saying, in effect, that this is a great time to buy a new car?
Well, were I a customer and were I in a position to make a relatively large expenditure, this would be the moment I would sure pick. We have been, as buyers in this country, exploited by the automobile industry for 75 years. The time has come, perhaps, to turn that on our exploiters.
All right, the first thing I thought of when I heard the Volkswagen deal is that somebody out there is going to try to find some way to get a free car, or at least part of a free car. Has Volkswagen got all the regulations and rules in place so that can't happen?
Oh, I think so. I think you and I can be confident that there are enough lawyers in this country, and certainly VW employs its share, so that if they have any problem at all, they're going to have problems with their insurance company and their lawyers, and they deserve that. But I don't think VW is hypocritical in this matter. I think that it truly believes that this is a good thing to do. And more important, I think that it believes, and it's putting its money where its mouth is, that business is going to get better.
What we're really apparently seeing is an auto payment insurance plan, the kind of thing that is available when you buy a new car if you choose to pay for it anyway. Is that not so, first of all?
That is exactly correct, but it's only one of a number of things that are happening in the marketplace for the benefit of the consumer.
The other major innovation that I've seen in terms of selling new cars is getting rid of the car salesman. A number of dealerships are doing that. How do you react to that?
Well, I think that goes beyond being a major innovation. I think that that is emblematic of a complete change in the relationship between the buyer and the seller. And although I referred facetiously to the manner in which buyers have been exploited in this country, I do believe that we all think, all of us who are consumers, and most of the sellers, I believe, also think that the buying and selling transaction as we have known it in the car marketplace is abominable.
Let me offer you a premise, and if I'm not being too subjective, I would suggest that one of the biggest turnoffs for potential new car buyers would be the prospect of third-rate, grudging service from the company's service department after the sale. Are the dealerships and the manufacturers aware of that? Are they making that a major priority?
Oh, yes, indeed, and you're right. I would pause for a moment to say that there are two big turnoffs. One of them is the alligator wrestling that has to go on to buy the car in the first place. And then the second thing is that desperate and awful relationship that you have to endure with service after you've bought the automobile. But that is changing. And one of the things that's making it change is that the manufacturers are incentivizing their own dealers to provide good service so that some kind of turnaround will be perceptible to the buyer. And it's happening.
Is Farfignugan a bust?
I think everything in the marketplace in the last year has been a bust.
All right. Okay, bottom line is this is a good time to buy a car if you are in the market for one.
Absolutely the best time. There is new technology available. You can get money for the first time, and you can get it cheap, and you can make great deals.
Leon Mandel, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
This viewing suggestion, join us tomorrow for a new feature in our Watch Your Dollars segment. We'll travel the world for the unique vacation spots at the best prices. Watch for some, as we say, unique vacation values each Friday at this hour on CNN.
When you receive your pre-approved Discover card application, sign it.
Oh,
Because you can't earn cash back until you get it back. It pays to Discover.
Ricola, the all-natural herb cough drop imported from Switzerland. Ricola has been soothing throats and relieving coughs naturally for over 60 years.
For many people, food is an obsession. Like the alcoholic abuses alcohol, those suffering from eating disorders abuse food.
Call Woodridge for help now. 1-800-235-7759. Today, it sets the pace for the months ahead, but is the first primary make or break for most candidates, weighing the significance of New Hampshire on Inside Politics 92, today at 4:30 p.m. Eastern on CNN.
The town of Whistler in the Canadian province of British Columbia is one of the great ski resorts of North America. Its snow-capped mountains, mild climate, and unspoiled environment have given the place an ideal setting. At the base of the mountains is the Chateau Whistler, an exceptional building made by craftsmen who care about every detail. Its owners have packed the place with delightful folk art representing various cultures in North America. And that love of art has carried over into the work of the chef, Bernard Cassavant. Here's the recipe for granola flan with a fresh fruit sauce. Granola is mixed together with a little honey, pressed into a ring on a baking sheet, and baked for 8 minutes in a 350-degree Fahrenheit oven. A food processor is used to make a puree of bananas, papaya, strawberries, and a little orange juice. The blend is strained to give it a smooth texture. Then the sauce goes on to the serving plate. The granola flan on top. Strawberries, papaya, a little yogurt, a garnish of berries, mint, and pieces of phyllo dough. A symbolic dessert. The mountains, the snow, the towers of the chateau, the fruitful earth, and the honeyed temperament of the people who live here. And all with the healthful outlook, which is so much a part of Canadian cooking. From the Chateau Whistler Resort in Canada, that's what's cooking for today. I'm Bert Wolf.
Campbell's heard your healthy request.
Low fat,
Less salt.
but lots of taste.
Here's our answer. New Campbell's Healthy Request ready-to-serve soups. All the great taste you want without some things you don't. New Campbell's Healthy Request. And healthy.
What happens when you buy Purina Biscuits brand dog snacks? You get a coupon worth $1.50 off any Purina dog food. Here's how it works. Buy Purina Biscuits, get $1.50 off. Purina Biscuits, $1.50 off.
Purina Biscuits, $1.50 off. Purina Biscuits, $1.50 off. Purina Biscuits, $1.50 off. Purina...
Remember, with Purina Biscuits, you'll never have to pay full price for Purina dog food again.
Nice dog!
Polyshades by Minwax. It's a stroke of genius. Polyshades is rich stain and polyurethane protection in one. Polyshades gives wood a beautiful protective finish in half the time. Polyshades by Minwax.
Well, wet weather has wended its way west. Thus there is...
Yeah, I wish you could have been in on this a little earlier. I've forgotten almost what Flip was saying. He's talking about in Seattle. What was it?
Soggy
we said soggy Seattle. Yes, sensational. Flip.
a soggy scenario for Seattle. But, you know, I should have learned long ago, you don't beat Bob Cain at the alliteration game. You always lose. Oh, hi, guys. This area of rainfall here in the northwest, that's what we're referring to. And Seattle has been very, very wet over the past couple of days. As much as 3 inches of rainfall has been reported over the past 24-hour period, and more rain is on the way. Yet another frontal system, actually series of frontal systems, moving into the west coast. But you notice this time I said the west coast, not just the northwest. Yes, it is now raining in the northwest, particularly at the mouth of the Columbia River, but it does reach down through Washington, Oregon, now down into California, and I do think that over the weekend we will see some rain move into the entire area of California, even southern California, and they need the rain so very badly. I have a weak weather system that came in through the northwest earlier this week, into the Great Lakes area now, picking up just a little bit of moisture in here. Boy, not much. Down here in the southeast, we've been clocking this low pressure center all the way across the Gulf. It will today move on across Florida and head on out into the Atlantic, but it may then slide up the east coast and bring some snow this weekend into New England because we do have some Arctic air dropping to the south. Look now at our forecast weather map for Alaska, Hawaii, and the Caribbean. We want to, while looking at this map, just verbally update you on Hurricane Akeka, which did develop well south of Hawaii, but still close enough to Hawaiian waters that it did get a Hawaiian name. Akeka, we are told, is Hawaiian for Edgar. Yesterday, I believe I said Edward. It is Edgar. It will not affect the Hawaiian Islands. It will not affect Johnston Island. As a matter of fact, at the moment, it affects no landmass at all, but it is a hurricane in the Pacific. Look now at our forecast weather map for the lower 48, and here you can see that light area of snowfall that I mentioned in the Great Lakes area as this low-pressure center moves on through and into New England. Do not look for heavy snowfall amounts in here. As a matter of fact, in the UP, it might even be a mix of snow and freezing rain. That's how warm it is. We saw a bunch of record-setting high temperatures in northwest, northern Rockies, northern plains. Could see more of those. Well, as a matter of fact, Seattle has already set a record high for today. The rainfall in the southeast continues to drift on to the east, and more rain headed into the northwest. Right now, take a look at specific forecasts for cities around the nation for the remainder of the day. I'm done. It's a delight to drop to Donna.
You're just too dandy, Flip. Blue Cross says it had never been remembered in a will until now. Helen Morgenthaler of New Jersey left the insurance company more than $16,000. She wrote in her will that she wanted to thank Blue Cross because it had spent so much on her. Helen Morgenthaler became blind 4 years before she died. Blue Cross then, in turn, donated the money to an organization called Prevent Blindness.
Nice way to end.
Terrific.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Bob Cain at CNN Center.
Good to have you along. I'm Donna Kelley. Let's check in with Catherine Cryer because Cryer & Company is coming up next.
It's a good reason. Thanks, Donna. Bob, well, is it time to pay our last respects to the women's movement? Sally Quinn, author of a volatile article on the demise of feminism, joins us, along with others who heartily disagree. Join us following the financial update right after this.
In the early 90s, the real estate business changed.
I've got your financing seminar, 2 closings, and a showing. Busy day. Busy morning.
Professionals took control, trained to use the latest marketing tools, responsive to the real human issues.
He's not moving, but we've got a meeting set for tomorrow.
And one organization is setting the pace. Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate. Join us. Call 1-800-ADVANCE.
Thanks for joining us. Susan, what's new tonight?
Nothing, honey.
Can't you make up something, darling?
Kellogg's Nut and Honey Crunch is new with a deliciously sweet new recipe.
Anything new?
Nothing, honey.
Anything changed?
Nothing, honey.
Anything different?
Nothing, honey.
See you tomorrow.
Uh-huh.
It's a whole new Nut and Honey Crunch, and you'll love the nutty sweet taste.
He just won't open up. Watch this. What's new, Pete?
Nothing, honey.
Like a brick wall.
New Kellogg's Nut and Honey Crunch.
Coming up, Cryer and Company, followed by News Hour after this local commercial break here on CNN.
In Salisbury, Maryland, the hungry are being fed. In Wind Falls, Indiana, a man who learned to read at 47 is making sure others learn earlier. Every day, someone in America is doing something to light up another life. But there is so much more to do. The light to do it is within us all. We only need to share it. Call the Points of Light Foundation. Do something good. Feel something real.
You, my friend, can use some fun. Big fun. Las Vegas, Atlantic City, cruise ships. But you gotta take this along, the Players Club card. It's gonna save you a lot of money. 25 to 50% off fabulous resort hotels, 25% off meals and drinks, up to 50% off shows and entertainment. Come on. Call Players Club for much more information free. You're too smart to pay full price.
New members get 2 free nights in Las Vegas or Atlantic City when the club books their flights. Call toll-free now.